football and other F words, and it's Happy Independence Day, as you can see, back in the old studio. A little bit different on the back. But this is pre recorded, but don't worry. You're getting all this information just a couple hours later than I'm giving it to you right now. My name is Zach Lyons. Of course, you can follow me on Twitter at the Zach Lyons. And of course, this is football and other efforts. Like I already said that. Stoney is recovering from vacation. He's taking a vacation from his vacation. July 4th is tomorrow, so I didn't think it was right, since 104.5 The Zone and the Cumulus Studio is off today, to have Jackson come in, drive all the way down to Nashville, then drive all the way back to do the show. So we're just going to do it from here. An easy breezy show. I'm going to hit some of the high points from the Sharp Football 2025 preview of the Tennessee Titans chapter. And the reason I like to do this every year, because I'm doing it now without being able to discuss it with anybody, because I'm just going to give you the facts. Me and Stoney will discuss these. Me and Blaine will discuss these in the coming weeks. But because it's Independence Day, I just want to celebrate our independence from Will Levis. Because just quite honestly, he's an enemy of the state. He's terrible. It was really bad. It's whatever you think it is with Will Levis last year, however low you think of the job that Will Levis and Mason Rudolph did last year, it's actually worse. This actually tells you, this chapter, Warren Sharp, these entire 8 or 10 pages, just really goes to show, I don't think anybody was going to win with Will Levis. And it really takes you down a path of why they needed independence from Will Levis. We needed independence from Will Levis to really change things, because it's crazy. It's crazy. Here's how he opens the chapter. Here's, of course, Warren Sharp. Here's how he opens the chapter. The Tennessee Titans were barely relevant last year. If it's hard for you to remember the Titans, you're not alone. That's how he opens the chapter. He holds nothing back, by the way. The Titans were only relevant to start the season because of who they played. Essentially, they had low expectations for the Tennessee Titans. A lot of the media had low expectations for the Tennessee Titans. A lot of the fans had high expectations for the Tennessee Titans and Will Levis. They were only favored in one game last year. One game last year. It hasn't really gotten better this year in that regard, but one game last year at this point. And he goes and says Titans were only relevant because of who they played. Caleb Williams, Aaron Rodgers, back to back. The Titans were only on SportsCenter because of the hilarious Levis highlights. The memes, the meme god himself. And he goes through and breaks down week one. The Titans started their 2024 season Chicago strong, racing out to a 17-0 lead behind 2 touchdowns and a field goal, obviously. And then into the second half, things unraveled. The Bears responded with 24 unanswered points, fueled in part by Titans' mistakes. Levis threw 2 interceptions in this game, the most costly being the fourth quarter pick 6. That gave the Bears their first lead and ultimately sealed the game. On top of that, obviously, as we know, the Tennessee allowed a special teams touchdown on a blocked punt. What looked like a convincing road win turned into a frustrating loss due to turnovers and breakdown in all phases. Now listen, everybody knows the special teams was not good that week one. But again, it's up to your quarterback to be able to overcome these things. It's up to your quarterback to be able to not get rattled, not throw 2 interceptions with a lead, not to do dumb things that hurt the team. That kind of sounds familiar, doesn't it? So let's go to week 2. Tennessee again built a lead, 17-7 against the Jets. The Jets scored 17 unanswered points to win. Levis again was at the center of the collapse, throwing another pick 6 and later fumbling in the red zone under pressure, squandering a potential go-ahead drive. Of course, that was the what the fuck are you doing game from Brian Callahan. The Jets capitalized on the mistakes, scoring the go-ahead touchdown late. Once again, the Titans couldn't recover after Levis's errors shifted the game momentum. That is key. That is the biggest problem with Levis and really the Titans offense as a whole. But Levis himself, when people are like, well, what's Levis supposed to do behind this bad offensive line? What's Levis supposed to do when nobody can get open? Which they were. Blah, 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 blah. All these excuses. Well, if you go back, and I'm not saying he has to be Joe Burrow, but Joe Burrow since 2021 has had historically the worst offensive line these last 4 years. He's had no run game. I mean, give me a break. I know he's Joe Burrow, but these excuses don't matter because it's about the momentum. He shifted momentum. He stole momentum. He took the momentum away. That is what Levis did. He moves on to week 3. The Titans hosted the Packers but fell behind early, trailing 14-0. They managed to fight back and cut the deficit to 14-7. But then Levis took 8 sacks. The offensive line wasn't helping matters any, as he notes, allowing far too much pressure from the pass rush. But Levis took 8 sacks. In addition to the relentless pressure, Levis committed 2 more back-breaking mistakes. So all that pressure, back-breaking mistakes. He lost a fumble on a sacks and threw yet another pick 6, his third in as many games. He calls Levis a double agent. Like, seemingly this guy has to be having bets on the opposing team. Because this is ridiculous. Because he's destroying, as he puts, the Titans' chances to add wins. Even if the Titans would have came out 1-2 on the other side, or maybe 2-1, and they didn't have to go 3-0, these were winnable games for the Tennessee Titans. In each of the first 3 games, the Titans had opportunities to win, but couldn't finish due to mistakes, primarily from Levis. That's a fact. That's just a fact, people. If you're still a Levis believer, it's just facts at this point. If you're still a Levis believer, I mean, go find help. I'll give you my wife's number. She is a family and marriage counselor, because if you're making decisions and choices to stick by Levis, maybe you have issues at home. So maybe my wife can help you. The trend of blowing games late and Levis's mistake-prone plays. Remember, 3 pick 6s and multiple fumbles in 3 weeks. Not ironically, the Titans earned their first win of the season in Miami in week 4, obviously, after Levis was knocked out of the game in the first quarter with a shoulder injury. Even though it was a first quarter departure, Levis managed to throw an interception before he left, less than 5 minutes before the game. Oof. Of course, Mason Rudolph led 7 scoring drives, mostly Nick Folk field goals as noted, and the Titans won the game. In that Colts game, Levis went 16 of 27 for a measly 3.5 yards per attempt and made sure, hey, just got to do it, to throw another interception in a 3-point loss. Levis played the entire game and had just 95 passing yards. These are his words, though I agree. Despite Levis playing like a buffoon once again, the Titans never trailed from 6:51 in the first quarter until 7:27 in the fourth quarter. For nearly 3 full quarters, the Titans held leads of 10-7, 17-10, and 17-13 before the Colts scored a go-ahead touchdown middle of the fourth quarter. After that touchdown, here are the 3 possessions from Levis. Drive 1, threw an interception on the second play of the drive. Drive 2, threw 3 incompletions on 5 pass attempts and had to punt the ball on 4th and 7 at their own 25-yard line. Drive 3, I love this phrasing, let a pitchy woo-woo play with 12 seconds left from their own 3-yard line in the game. Look, I don't mean to pile on to stuff that you already know. You guys were there. You guys watched the game. Some of you fought against that Levis cost you those games, but that's okay. But here's where it gets interesting, because there is a metric throughout this whole thing, and it's something that Warren Sharp has worked on, perfected. It's his stat. It's early down success rate, and it's got all this stuff that comes down to it. But bottom line, it's the most correlated metric to wins or losses outside of turnovers. So a high correlation. When a team is in the green or has a positive EDSR, they won the battle that game. When a team has a red or is in the negative, a red bar, if you're looking at the book, they lost the early down success rate battle and likely lost the game. If you look at the Titans' first 5 games through week 6, and this is for EDSR in defense and EDSR in offense, so it's all combined. Did you gain the yardage necessary to deem successful on a per play basis, or did you prevent the opposing offense from getting the yards necessary on a per play basis to deem it successful? The Titans, if you look at it in I lost my in the first 5 games, in every game they won the early down success rate battle. Yet instead of sitting 5-0, which is also, it's not a perfect metric, so let's say instead of sitting even at 2-3 or 3-2, they were 1-4. If you look further in the season, you'll see the Titans only lost the EDSR battle badly in 6 of the 17 games last year. They went 0-6 in those games last year. So, I mean, they lost really bad, and they lost the game. So they weren't even able to do the close ones or the ones where they had a really high EDSR and convert those into wins. And what did all of those first 5 weeks have in common? Besides the one win, Will Levis. Even though they had early down success rate because of play calling from Brian Callahan, because of the defense from Denard Wilson was playing at a much better level at the beginning of the year, they were able to move down the field, but he caused mistakes. He swung the momentum. It's a lot. So let's go back. Of course, by week 6, they were 1-4. Everyone in America moved on, but the Tennessee Titans, all of fans and all that kind of stuff. Because then they lost 34-10 to the Bills. Then they lost 52-14 to the Lions. No one cared about the Titans outside of Tennessee. This team, though, kind of wasn't set up for success. And here's what I mean by that. And here's what he means. And I get what he's saying. I don't know if I would use the term "was it set up for success." I think it was under the notion that I don't think everybody fully understood the massive transition that was happening with the Tennessee Titans. You've been a run-first team with Derrick Henry for years, and suddenly Henry is gone. You're transitioning to a Joe Burrow-styled offense with much more 11 personnel and drop-back passing, and your quarterback is Will Levis. That's what he means. This team tried to do a transition really quick with a bad quarterback. And listen, we were all for coming into the modern era. So I get what he's saying. I get that that may sound like it's easy to blame Brian Callahan, but we all knew what was going to go on with this transition. We just kind of didn't think that we were going to get the Will Levis that we got. And I wasn't even a big Will Levis fan. I thought he played worse than I thought he ever could, to be honest with you. The Titans finished -16 in turnover margin and -20 in sack margin. They tied for the most turnovers in the NFL last year. Their final turnover expected points added was -81.6 points. So almost on a per turnover average, they were losing. You to look at all the turnovers, they almost lost like 81 points, stretched out over 17 games. Their final penalty EPA was also -14.9. Now, the turnover EPA, expected points added, was 31st in the league, so someone was actually worse in EPA loss on turnovers, even though they didn't have the most turnovers. And their final penalty was 25th. They scored 0 return touchdowns while allowing a league-high 7 return touchdowns to be scored against them. They ranked number 28 in EPA per play on third downs and field goal range. They were terrible on third downs of field goal range and left so many points on the board that forced him to kick far more field goals than keep drives going to score touchdowns. Woof. They went 2-6 in one-score games. Brutal, critical, game-deciding stats that went against the Titans last year. And those stats superseded stats like this. Hey, the Titans defense ranked number 2 on early downs, number 15 in total defense. You just can't win games like that, he says. And I think we all saw that to be true. Here's how bad third down has been. This hasn't been just a Brian Callahan thing. Over the last 3 years, so Mike Vrabel 2022, Mike Vrabel 2023, Brian Callahan 2024. Over the last 3 years, 46% of the Titans' third down passes resulted them in losing at least one expected point. At least on third downs. You're losing points on third downs. It's insane. Shouldn't be too surprised by the tone of my voice if you're listening on podcasts or seeing me sort of half-heartedly laugh. It was worse than the NFL during that 3-year span. Also on third down, those third downs that resulted them in losing at least one expected point, they took a sack or threw an interception on nearly 20% of those dropbacks. So on 20% of that 46%, they threw a sack or threw an interception. Hey, guess what? Worst in the NFL, baby. So Ward and Bones Fossil, should both help with these things. Because just think about what we've kind of talked about here. Levis took too many sacks and threw too many interceptions. Ward is the exact opposite in college. Ward was rarely sacked. 2.9% sack rate was best in the quarterback class. Ward posted an interception rate below 2% in all 3 seasons dating back to Washington State as a starter. He threw 5.6 touchdowns for every interception. 5.6 touchdowns for every interception. Now listen, these are just college stats. And we can compare them to Levis in college if we want to get a degree of difference in the college ranks. Levis took 42 sacks. 42 sacks in his final 12 games at Kentucky, or 3.5 sacks per game and a sack rate of 12.9%. Ward was at 2.9%. So a 10% difference between Levis and Ward. Levis threw 10 interceptions on 283 attempts, 3.5% in his final year at Kentucky, while Ward over at Miami was less than 2%. Levis threw 19 touchdowns to 10 interceptions, throwing 1.9 touchdowns for every interception. Remember, Ward threw 5.6 touchdowns for every interception. Hashtag Never Levis is thriving. The comparison, obviously, isn't even close. In terms of taking care of the ball and executing an offense that reduces negative plays, Ward runs laps around Levis. And Ward didn't just avoid negative plays, he created explosives. He had the highest rated completions over 20 yards in this class. 51% of his passes resulted in a first down or a touchdown. Highest rate in this class. When he attacked downfield, he was surgical and aggressive, posting a 75% on-target rate on throws over 10 yards. The best among all the quarterbacks this year. Here's where things can get tricky. And this, what just happened? Let's make sure I'm just still recording here. I don't know, my screen went a little blank. You would think I wouldn't get a screensaver with this going around. All right. But here's where things get tricky. Brian Callahan and Cam Ward meshing. Now, this is not to say that Brian Callahan's way couldn't work. This is not to say that Cam Ward isn't Joe Burrow, or that maybe this is what Cam Ward prefers. I hope there seems to be a very much of an open dialogue. But here's something that I would be looking for if I was going to be at every practice. And the practices that I go to, I'm going to try and keep up with this, is how much motion is being used. Because here's why. In Cincinnati, and since he left Cincinnati, so it's the same thing in 2024, they don't use easy buttons. Now, easy buttons are play action, pre-snap motion, RPO, and screens. Those are easy buttons. And the Cincinnati Bengals, for the most part, in most of these stats, do not use these at a high rate. They rely on Joe Burrow's mental acumen to diagnose and quickly react to opposing defenses. This is Cam Ward's first year. I would hope some of these easy buttons get bumped up because last year in 2024 for Will Levis, the Titans ranked 29th in rate of pre-snap motion ahead of passes and 20th in play action usage. And you guys know me. I'm a big play action guy. It works all the time. Doesn't matter about your run game. It works all the time. The offensive line and the quarterback are the real issue. You probably don't see a lot of this stuff, specifically the play action. You can't have your quarterback with his back to the defense with this offensive line. You can't expect that Will Levis, once he turns around and sees you can't expect him once he turns around to read the defense and to react quickly. He shows that he does not do that. However, if they choose to kind of do this the Cincinnati way, it's not all going to be doom and gloom. Because when you remove all those easy plays, when you remove the play action, when you remove the pre-snap motion, the RPO and the screens, Ward led the entire quarterback draft class with 11.2 yards per attempt on those other plays, the non-easy button plays, the hard button plays, I guess you'd call it. He'll need to thrive without those assets, but he showed the ability to do it in college. Will Levis never had that ability. They also need better protection than what Levis got last year. Now, obviously, they've tried to address that, right? They got Kevin Zeitler. They got Dan Moore. When not pressured in college, when he wasn't pressured in college, 49.9% of those non-pressured throws, those passes from a clean pocket, went for a first down or touchdown. Highest rate in the class. We went from last year, the worst at this, the worst at this, the worst at this, to Cam Ward is the highest, the best, the most. The Titans ended the season last year, number 27 ESPN's pass block win rate, and number 25 pass block grade as a team from PFF. They got rid of MPF, John Njoku, Leroy Watson, Lloyd Cushenberry should be back. And they also signed Dan Moore to a 4-year contract worth up to $82 million this season. Moore is also expected to play left tackle. Of course, J.C. Latham to right. Then they they got Kevin Zeitler. And opposite, so just for you guys know, he appeared in 16 games for the Lions 2024. He ended the season with the third highest run blocking grade among guards. So that's good news. Left guard opposite is Peter Skoronski. After allowing, for you Skoronski haters out there, after allowing a 6.6 pressure rate as a rookie, Skoronski improved with a 4.2% rate last season. He went from 30th in run blocking grade at PFF as a rookie to 7th last year. Again, a run game helps a young quarterback. Here's where things get tricky, is relying on Dan Moore. I keep telling people, Dan Moore allowed more than 12 sacks from the left tackle position. Or there were more than 12 sacks from the left tackle position, is a better way to put it. Some of those are on the quarterback, but 12 of them are still on Dan Moore. Those 12 are not the ones that you are supposed to subtract from the Russell Wilson. Those have already been subtracted. Already subtracted. So these are 12 on Dan Moore. Second most in the league. I've seen the 12. They're on Dan Moore. He allowed a 6.5% pressure rate, 66 among tackles with 100 or more pass blocking snaps with the Steelers. 66 best, by the way. 6'6", just in case you thought it's 16. So Bill Callahan, good luck, is all I got to say on that one. Just real quick, last year on the defense, before we wrap things up here, last year the defense ranked 29th in pressure rate, 22nd in sack rate. Here's the bad part. 67% of their blitzes did not record a single pressure. Wasn't the worst in the NFL, just number 30 out of 32. 67%. 67%. Even if that number gets better, you will generate, those other numbers will come up. Like, if you're blitzing, you have to get pressure. Like, what are we doing here? Insane. Tennessee plays the 8th toughest schedule in September. They'll play 3 playoff teams from last year in their first 4 games: Broncos, Rams, and Texans. And of course, they'll have 3-game road trip from week 4 through week 6, meaning that of their first 6 games, 4 are on the road. However, it's not all bad. The defense is slated over the entire season, a much easier schedule of offenses in 2025 than they played in 2024. He likes to close this up, and we're going to get to just a few last-minute stats after this. He closes up. Now with Cam Ward, they'll start the process of developing a true franchise quarterback. For now, the goal in Tennessee is clear. Keep Ward healthy, accelerate his learning curve, and establish offensive rhythm by mid-season. Now, he's done this new thing this year, and you can see where the Titans quarterbacks are done. Reasons for incompletions. So if you are ranked number 1, that means you have the highest rate of the NFL quarterbacks, which he has, I think, about 47 or 40-something on here. So for Mac Jones, for example, he had the highest rate of his incompletions that were incomplete due to accuracy. So you could be incomplete due to accuracy, incomplete due to coverage, incomplete due to pressure, incomplete due to receiver error. Will Levis had 33% of his incompleted passes were due to inaccuracy. So, for example, the only quarterbacks ahead of him, Mac Jones, Caleb Williams, Aiden O'Connell, Drake May, Matt Stafford, Joe Flacco, Bryce Young, DTR, CJ Stroud, Bo Nix, Jaden Daniels, Jared Goff, Anthony Richardson. Now you may be saying, Zach, some of those aren't that bad of a group. You know what I'm saying? Like some of those, it's some pretty good quarterbacks. The problem is that his overall incompletion rate was the 13th highest, whereas Mac Jones was 24th. Drake May was 34th. Matt Stafford, 26th. Bo Nix, 31st. Jaden Daniels, 41st. Jared Goff, 45. Mason Rudolph, as far as percent of incompletions for inaccuracy, he was ranked 31st, only 28%. He was actually ranked 21st overall in overall incompletion rate. What gets worse is that when you go to third down, you know who the 6th highest is at incompletion rate for inaccuracy? Will Levis. You know who's ahead of him? Mac Jones, Aiden O'Connell, Bryce Young, Jameis Winston, Gardner Minshew. That makes a lot more sense. You know who was near the bottom? Mason Rudolph, 38th. Only 20% of his passes on third down were inaccurate, were incomplete due to being inaccurate. Easy for me to say. On third down, Will Levis's rate was 44%. 24% markers worth. Woo! Nasty. Nasty. I just want to say this. Will Levis, when he wasn't under pressure, was 42 in EPA. What's crazy is that he actually improved in EPA when he wasn't under pressure from 2023. When he was in the pocket, he was 42nd. When he was in the pocket, 41st in EPA. No play action, early downs, 44th. Just so you know, no play action, early downs, Mason Rudolph was 4th. The 4th best quarterback in EPA. First down in first, second, and third quarters, he was 43rd overall, Will Levis. Layup throws, he was 45th overall. He was the 41st best quarterback in man coverage. Mason Rudolph was 23rd best. Against zone coverage, they were very similar, 34th and 35th. Mason Rudolph was 34th, Will Levis 35th. Between the numbers, they were very similar. Basically, where things actually separate for Will Levis is, of course, the deep ball. He was the 3rd best going deep EPA in the class. However, against man coverage sure is a bit of a difference. All this to say is that if you were to look at Cam Ward and you were to look at the biggest things that caused losses, quarterback play and special teams, the Tennessee Titans theoretically did enough to address it to be where those first 6 games last year, first 6 weeks, whatever it was, first 5 games where they were 1-4, they should be maybe closer to 2-4 or 3-2. It's all about that early down success rate. But this is all to say that if Cam Ward just is average, this team with its play calling, with its play design, with the way that this team wants to play games, should be better. And especially when you talk about special teams. Kevin Dyson put it best. He said, you can't lose 2 of the 3 battles. And he's talking about 2 of the 3 phases. The 3 phases are offense, defense, special teams. A lot of those games, they lost both offense and special teams. A lot of those games, there was maybe offense and defense, or maybe the special teams and defense, but a lot of them were offense and special teams. And Bones Fossil is just as good as we all expect to be, and his reputation is what Cam Ward projects to be based on all these metrics that I just read today. This team should be better. Is it a playoff contending team? No. Is it a Super Bowl team? No. Is it a, maybe at the end of the year, wild card team discussion in the hunt graphic team? Maybe. Is it a team that could be first in the division? I wouldn't really put it past them. But, I mean, as far as projecting out, like, AFC Conference Championship team, I'd have to see it to believe it before I change my mind on that. Other than that, you guys enjoy your 4th of July. Look forward to hearing from all you guys next week here on Football and Other Efforts. Look forward to having Stoney back. Other than that, this has been Football and Other Efforts, and you have just been effed.